At the beginning, the Belém Tower was completely surrounded by water, but over the centuries, when the water of the Tagus River receded, a part of it came out of the water. According to legends, these bones were for soldiers of war, monks and people who were killed by the plague. But in most sources, it is said that these remains belonged to monks. Belém Tower. Belém Tower is one of the wonders of Portugal, or a beautiful palace in the middle of the sea. This unique tower built in the middle of the sea can be considered one of the main attractions of Portugal. The project was revived in 1514 during the reign of the previous king's successor, King Manuel I. A new design for the defensive towers was provided by Francisco de Arruda, and the construction of the tower in the next year in the life of Belém port, the starting point of many Portuguese explorations in the era of discoveries. The tower was finished 6 years later in 1520. At that time, the tower was known as the Tower of Vincent of Saragossa, which was considered the patron of the city of Lisbon. The beautiful Belém Tower was built in the new Manueline architectural style, which took its name from the name of King Manuel I. Manueline style was considered a late Gothic architectural style of Northern Europe, with a lot of decorations with a nautical theme. This architectural style reflected the self-confidence and wealth of Portugal, which was the result of the Age of Discovery. During this period, explorers established colonies and created new trade routes that led wealth from India and other distant destinations to Lisbon. As a defense structure, Belém Tower displays very beautiful decorations on its exterior. Even it can be claimed that the interior is not as attractive and beautiful as the exterior. The balconies are carved with rich limestone decorations that reflect the wealth of Portugal during the Manueline era. The bottom of the tower consists of a hexagonal base with small minarets in the Moorish architecture style in each corner. And there was a cannon warehouse in this area. The ground floor was used as a prison in the past. The terrace above the ground floor is decorated with a statue of the Holy Mary and her child, who were believed to protect sea travelers. The upper floors of the tower include an armory and several private residences. The most interesting of all are the royal residences on the second floor, with an Italian covered porch, along with columns decorated with numerous statues with beautiful carvings. On the top floor there is another terrace with a very spectacular view of Belém and the Tagus River. The entrance of this building is facing the sea, and on its upper floors there was a space to place war cannons so that if the enemy is seen, they can quickly fire at them. At the beginning, the Belém Tower was completely surrounded by water, but over the centuries, when the water of the Tagus River receded, a part of it came out of the water. Today, this structure is easily accessible, or visitors can take a pleasant walk along the riverbank right in front of its entrance. Belém Tower is one of the main tourist attractions of the city of Lisbon, the capital of Portugal, and in a way a symbol of this city. In this structure, you can easily see the influence of Moroccan and North African architecture, and to some extent, Italian architecture. This tower was much closer to the coast than it is now. However, the earthquake that occurred in 1755 caused the river to shift to some extent. This tower was registered as one of the UNESCO Cultural Heritages in 1983, and the height of this tower is 30 meters. Even today, its importance in Lisbon is not hidden from anyone. Today, Belém Tower has become one of the most important tourist attractions in Lisbon. Visitors can visit the inside of the tower and watch the beautiful view of the Tagus River from its terraces, and visit the museum that is inside the tower. This tower is considered one of the World Heritage. It is a good representation of the history of Portugal and the cultural heritage of that country. This place not only allows you to get to know the architectural and historical beauties of Portugal, but also allows you to spend moments in the peace and beauty of this historic building. Belém Tower is undoubtedly one of the prominent attractions of Lisbon, which is worth taking the time to visit. Visit this beautiful place as soon as possible, and please comment your opinion. Chapel of Bones. The famous church that is built from human bones and decorated with skulls depicts a clear example of death, that the world is mortal and death will follow. Maybe for many of us, seeing a dead body is the most terrifying scene possible, but think about it. Enter a place where the walls are made entirely of human bones, and for decorations, human skulls have been hung from the doors and walls. Does it touch you? Building a church with human bones definitely does not seem like a logical idea, but there is a story about this building that justifies it. The history of this church dates back to the 16th century, i.e. between 1460 and 1510. It is said that this church was built by the Franciscan monks themselves. The city of Évora in Portugal was dealing with a big problem, and that was the large number of cemeteries in this city. To solve the problem, they decided to destroy some of these cemeteries. But what about the people who were buried in these cemeteries? It was never possible to consider the rest of the corpses, which were about 5,000 corpses, very easily and, so to speak, destroyed them. That's why an interesting and strange decision was made for these corpses, which were all nothing more than bones. The city of Évora was one of the rich cities of that period in Portugal, where the pleasure of wealth had caused people to completely forget death and distance themselves from God, which is why the monks of the city made an interesting decision about the bodies that were destroyed due to the destruction of cemeteries. They should exhume those who were in danger of destruction and build a place with them that would make the rich people remember God and death more, and that the bodies of monks would be less disrespected. According to legends, these bones were for soldiers of war, monks and people who were killed by the plague. But in most sources, it is said that these remains belonged to monks. The idea was to build a place of worship so that when people enter it, they will see death and even touch it. Maybe they will understand that God is near. In terms of architecture, this church is formed by 3 openings about 19 meters long and 11 meters wide. The light of this church is supplied through 3 small windows, which are located on the left side of the entrance. The walls and columns, which are 8 in number, are all made and decorated with bones and skulls. The roof of the church is made of white brick and has paintings with the theme of death. In short, bones, skulls and cement were used in the construction of this place. When you go to this church, the first thing that catches your eye is a sentence that attracts a lot of attention. The sentence engraved on the church door is the sentence that says, "Our bones are here, we are waiting for your bones." This sentence mostly reminds the visitors of this church that death is near. In this church, next to all the bones that are placed together, 2 complete corpses can be seen. A legend claims that it is a man and a child, and another claim a mother and child who were hanged, and their corpses are complete and hung on one of the walls of the church next to a cross. There are legends about this mother and son, which indicates that this woman and her child were killed by her husband, and another possibility is that this woman died between the ages of 30 and 50 due to a tooth infection. Of course, all these claims are just a myth, and even the identity of the 2 is still unknown. These 2 bodies, one of which is a child in ragged clothes, they were initially hung from the ceiling with chains. Now they are placed in a glass box and in a white coffin in front of the room of the remains of the 3 Franciscan monks who founded the church. Apart from the skeleton of that mother and child, at the end of the halls of this church and in an altar, there is a statue of a crucified man surrounded by thousands of bones and skulls. This statue has only one purpose, and that is there is no escape from death, and sooner or later, everyone falls into its trap. There is a sentence above this statue that shows this purpose well. "I left here, but I will never die. I will die in the light, and the day of my death is better than the day of my birth." The purpose of this church is to show the shortness and passage of life, and that ultimately death is the end of all of us. Although this different way of expression now looks very scary and unpleasant. Please comment your opinion about this place.